To finish up the immunity topic, we're just going to have a look at antibiotics and antivirals. So antibiotics, nice and quickly, drugs used to treat bacterial infections. Now, it's worth noting that antibiotics are only effective against bacteria. They are not going to treat viral infections or fungal infections. Now, they're only going to work against either a broad variety of bacteria or a really narrow variety of bacteria. So in the case of broad spectrum antibiotics, they're going to fight off a broad range of different bacteria. And in the case of narrow spectrum antibiotics, they're only going to focus on a really limited group of bacteria. So they can act in two different ways. The first mechanism is known as bacteriostatic antibiotics, and they work by inhibiting the reproduction of bacteria, usually by inhibiting protein synthesis. The second type of antibiotic is bactericidal antibiotics, and these kill bacteria by changing the structure of the cell wall or the cell membrane, depending on the structure of that individual bacteria. Something that's a little concerning in the world today is this notion of antibiotic resistance. So with antibiotic resistance, what we're talking about is, generally speaking, antibiotics will destroy bacteria, okay? Either bacteriostatic or bactericidal. Either way, it's going to lead to the death of that bacteria. And what happens is antibiotics are used, however, a very small population of that bacteria may remain. Now, if the antibiotics are stopped midway throughout their course or any stage throughout their course, this is going to lead to some bacteria persisting, some bacteria can survive. Now, this is ultimately all down to natural selection. It's due to random chance, it's due to variations within the genetic code of that individual bacteria, which might provide them with a survival advantage upon exposure to that particular antibiotic. Now, in our modern world, because we have used antibiotics so regularly, it has led to the acceleration of this particular process. Okay? So we've used antibiotics, for instance, in the treatment of viral diseases because we're not always 100% sure upon prescription of them. Secondly, we're overusing antibiotics for food production within animals. And then lastly, we've also used antibiotics in cleaning products that might contain some antibacterial ingredients. Our next thing that we can look at here is this kind of idea of this zone of inhibition. Okay, so this is a region where there's no bacterial growth, and what we can see here is we have a few different bacterial colonies, and these colonies are introduced to different concentrations of this antibiotic. Now we can see the zone of inhibition is quite large in some, and it gradually gets smaller, and what we're really trying to break down here and what we're trying to analyze is the impact of this antibiotic on the growth of bacteria. So the larger the zone of inhibition, the greater the impact of this particular antibiotic. Now the zone of inhibition, to be very clear, I'll try my best to highlight it here, is this region here. And what we can see is that as we increase the dosage of the antibiotic, as is detailed down the bottom of each numbered sequence here, we can see that eventually the bacteria reduce in number. Now, over time, some bacteria are more responsive to this antibiotic, meaning that they'll be more easily killed, and some are resistant to some antibiotics. And this is why we have broad and narrow spectrum antibiotics. Finally, we have antivirals. Antivirals are not the same as antibiotics. Antivirals, as their name suggests, are used for treating viral infections. Now, it's really important to note that they do not destroy the virus. They are not like bactericidal antibiotics. Instead, antivirals work by inhibiting the development of a virus at any of the different stages of its development. So, for instance, okay, we have HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and what we're doing with antivirals for these particular viral infections is we're inhibiting their development. We're stopping them from being able to reproduce.